It all started with a simple question. After leaving the massage clinic together, what did Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara actually eat? The answer isn't written anywhere, but before we explore that mystery, we have to go back to another ordinary moment that quietly shaped everything that came later. Last week, we talked about their mornings in Canada. We talked about the dark autumn mornings in 2019, when Ryuichi would drive to the homestay where 17-year-old Riku was living, park outside before sunrise, and wait for her to come through the front door. That first pickup didn't seem important at the time. It looked like nothing more than a teammate giving another teammate a ride. But that single morning became hundreds of mornings. One day turned into another into a routine, and eventually those ordinary drives became part of the invisible foundation that carried them all the way to the world stage. Many of you left heartfelt comments after that story. Some said they unexpectedly found themselves crying over something as simple as a morning pickup. Others believed those daily moments revealed a relationship deeper than anyone had realized. Among those comments, one question appeared again and again. What happened after practice? If mornings belonged to Ryuichi, what did their evenings look like? Where did they go after stepping off the ice? What filled those quiet hours that cameras almost never captured? Today, that's the journey we're taking. An athlete's day doesn't end when practice is over. In many ways, the hardest work begins after the final skate. Recovery becomes the next competition. Muscles need treatment. Injuries need attention. The body has to be repaired before it can perform again tomorrow. For Ryuichi, those recovery sessions weren't optional. They were essential. Long before he was officially diagnosed with lumbar spondylolysis in 2023, years of pair skating had already taken an enormous toll on his body. Every lift, every throw, every landing placed tremendous pressure on his back, shoulders, hips, and joints. Day after day, he lifted Riku thousands upon thousands of times, rotating at high speed before absorbing the impact of every landing on solid ice. Those movements built champions, but they also left quiet scars that accumulated over years of competition. Recovery wasn't simply about feeling better. It was about making sure he could return to the rink the next morning. Without that care, continuing his career at the highest level might not have been possible. That's why, after practice, massage therapy became part of his routine. Hidden inside a feature describing their everyday life in Canada was one sentence that deserves far more attention than it usually receives. It mentioned that when Ryuichi went for post-practice massage treatments, the two of them brought matching homemade lunchboxes. At first glance, it sounds like a small detail, almost too small to notice. But the more you think about those words, the more meaningful they become. In Japanese, the idea of matching items carries a deeper emotional meaning than simply owning the same thing. Matching mugs, matching keychains, matching shirts, people choose them because they want to share something. It isn't an accident. Someone intentionally decides, let's have the same one. That decision reflects a quiet desire to create connection. Couples often buy matching souvenirs while traveling. Close friends exchange matching accessories as birthday gifts. Parents and children sometimes wear matching outfits. The object itself isn't the important part. It's the decision to share it. That's what gives it meaning. So when we hear the phrase, matching homemade lunchboxes, an interesting question naturally follows. Whose idea was it? Did Ryuichi decide to prepare lunch for both of them? Did Riku suggest bringing the same meals together? Did it happen gradually without either of them noticing until one day it simply became normal? We don't know. No interview answers that question. No documentary explains how the tradition began. But one fact remains undeniable. Someone chose togetherness over convenience. One lunch would have been easier. Preparing two required extra effort. Someone doubled the work so they wouldn't have to eat separately. Then they repeated that decision often enough for it to become part of everyday life. The homemade part matters just as much. Sports nutritionist Ayako Nishiyama once shared something fascinating about Ryuichi's eating habits. She explained that during a nutrition study, he recorded everything he ate for 3 straight days, and almost every meal was prepared at home. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, day after day. Ryuichi wasn't relying on restaurants or convenience food. He cooked, Living overseas in Canada meant taking responsibility for his own nutrition, understanding what his body needed, and making sure every meal supported his training. So when we hear about those matching homemade lunchboxes, we're not talking about quickly grabbing something on the way to practice. We're talking about planning ahead. Someone had to stand in the kitchen either late the night before or early the next morning. Someone measured ingredients, packed containers, washed dishes, and made time despite the exhaustion that comes with elite athletic training. Preparing one lunch already takes commitment. Preparing two requires something more. That thought becomes even more meaningful when we remember another story from their Canadian life. We previously learned that Ryuichi's signature dish was curry. We also heard the charming story about Riku making omurice, only for Ryuichi to smile awkwardly while admitting it tasted good but still teasing her a little. Those small moments reveal something beautiful. They each had their own strengths in the kitchen. Maybe one lunchbox contained Ryuichi's homemade curry. Maybe another held Riku's favorite dishes. Maybe they cooked side by side, sharing responsibilities without needing to discuss them because the routine had already become second nature. Again, we don't know exactly what happened inside that kitchen, but the phrase, matching homemade lunchboxes, quietly contains every one of those possibilities. There's another important piece to this story. During the early years of their partnership, Riku became so focused on managing her weight that she reduced breakfast to almost nothing, sometimes eating only a single slice of bread. The result was predictable. Energy levels dropped. Concentration faded during practice. Mistakes became more likely. Ryuichi noticed. Instead of confronting her directly, he found another way. During conversations with their nutritionist, he intentionally used speakerphones so Riku could overhear the advice without feeling pressured. Later, she admitted she pretended not to listen while secretly absorbing every word. That detail tells us something important about Ryuichi's character. He cared about her health almost as much as his own. Looking at it through that lens, those homemade lunchboxes become something more than meals. They become another expression of the same quiet care. Choosing homemade food instead of fast food may have been part of maintaining proper nutrition. We can't state that as fact because neither of them has explicitly said so. But when we compare this story with everything else we know about Ryuichi's habits, it fits naturally into the larger picture. Then another detail begins to stand out. The massages were for Ryuichi's body. He was the one receiving treatment. Yet the report specifically mentioned matching lunchboxes. Not one. That small difference changes everything. If Ryuichi had gone alone, only one meal would have been necessary. There would have been no reason to prepare matching lunches. The existence of two lunchboxes strongly suggests that Riku was there too. She accompanied him. While he received treatment, perhaps she waited in the reception area. Maybe she sat outside on a nearby bench. Maybe she remained inside the car until his session finished. Wherever she waited, one image quietly emerges from the available facts. Afterward, the two of them opened their matching lunchboxes and shared a meal together before heading home. Waiting may sound insignificant, but think about what it really means. People rarely wait unless someone matters to them. Time is valuable, especially for elite athletes. After hours of demanding practice, recovery time becomes precious. They could have gone home separately, stretched individually, eaten alone, and rested earlier. Instead, this routine suggests another choice was made. Riku spent part of her recovery time accompanying Ryuichi while he cared for his injured body. Whether she waited because she worried about him, because they enjoyed each other's company, or simply because it had become their normal routine, no official source can tell us. But one thing is clear. Just as Ryuichi's mornings naturally began with picking Riku up, many of their evenings ended together as well. Their day formed one continuous line from sunrise to sunset. Morning drives, long hours on the ice, shared kitchens, recovery appointments, matching homemade lunchboxes open side by side somewhere in the fading Canadian evening light. Those quiet moments never appeared on competition score sheets. No cameras celebrated them. No medals were awarded for them. Yet perhaps those unseen hours carried just as much weight as everything the world applauded once the music started. Imagine that scene for a moment. The exact location has never been documented. It may have been a quiet waiting room inside the massage clinic, an empty bench just outside the building, or even the front seats of a parked car as daylight slowly disappeared over a Canadian evening. We simply don't know. But somewhere after another exhausting day of training, 2 lunchboxes were opened side by side. The ice was behind them for the day, yet they were still working. Recovery is part of an athlete's profession, and these ordinary moments were every bit as important as the hours spent practicing lifts, throws, and side-by-side jumps. What did they talk about while they ate? Maybe they reviewed mistakes from that day's practice. Maybe they discussed the next competition or adjustments their coaches wanted to make. Perhaps they talked about groceries they still needed to buy, a television show they had watched the night before, or some funny moment that happened during training. It's equally possible that they hardly spoke at all. Sometimes the deepest sense of comfort doesn't require conversation. Sitting beside someone in complete silence can say more than words ever could. We have no recording of those evenings, no diary describing them, and no interview revealing every detail. But the existence of those matching homemade lunchboxes tells us one thing with certainty. These were not isolated moments. This wasn't a single memorable afternoon. It was a routine repeated often enough that someone eventually mentioned it as an ordinary part of their Canadian life. Habits shape people. Repetition quietly builds trust. Day after day, week after week, without realizing it, 2 athletes were creating a rhythm that extended far beyond skating itself. By 2021, another important change took place. Riku moved into a different apartment in the same building where Ryuichi was living. That small change in address transformed the flow of their daily lives. Back when she lived with her host family, preparing matching lunches required planning ahead. Someone had to think about tomorrow before tomorrow arrived. But living in the same building made everything easier. After practice, they could simply head upstairs, step into the kitchen, and prepare food together before leaving for recovery appointments. Or perhaps Ryuichi cooked first, and Riku picked up her lunch downstairs before they left. We don't know exactly how their routine evolved, but sharing the same building naturally made sharing everyday life much easier. Morning rides to practice. Hours together on the ice. Evenings spent preparing meals. Massage appointments. Dinner. Recovery. Then it all started again the next morning. As these daily habits became more deeply rooted, something else happened at exactly the same time. Their competitive results began climbing rapidly. Following those early years of building trust, they reached the top of the figure skating world. World Championship titles. Grand Prix final victories. Success after success followed. Of course, no one can claim that matching lunchboxes won gold medals. Elite sports are never that simple. Championships are earned through extraordinary skill, relentless training, exceptional coaching, and countless sacrifices. But routines matter. Consistency matters. Trust matters. The same discipline that allows athletes to repeat difficult elements on the ice often appears first in the smallest parts of everyday life. Nutritionist Ayako Nishiyama once said something revealing about Ryuichi. She explained that once he learned something beneficial, he didn't simply understand it, he continued doing it. Knowledge became habit. Habit became lifestyle. That ability to continue, even when no one is watching, may be one of the greatest qualities elite athletes possess. Perhaps that same mindset extended beyond nutrition and training. Perhaps it also included continuing to support one another every single day. Continuing to eat together. Continuing to recover together. Continuing to remain present for each other even after practice had ended. When most people hear about matching homemade lunchboxes, their first reaction is usually, "That's adorable." And it certainly is. But viewed through the lens of high-performance sports, the story becomes much heavier. Ryuichi wasn't visiting massage therapy because he wanted to relax. He was going because years of physical stress demanded treatment. His body hurt. Recovery wasn't optional. It was necessary if he hoped to continue competing at the highest level. Beside him sat Riku, opening the same style of lunchbox while waiting for him. Suddenly, that image becomes something much more meaningful than simply sharing a meal. It becomes an act of staying beside someone during the difficult parts of their day. Later, Ryuichi would say something that echoes through every one of these stories. He admitted that without Riku, he never could have come this far. Most people naturally connect that statement to competitions, performances, and championships. But perhaps those words also include the countless evenings that nobody photographed. The days when his back hurt. The afternoons spent in treatment rooms. The meals shared after exhausting practices. The ordinary hours that slowly built extraordinary trust. Then everything changed. In 2023, Ryuichi received the diagnosis that athletes always fear: lumbar spondylolysis. His lower back could no longer tolerate the demands of competition, forcing him to withdraw from multiple events while focusing entirely on rehabilitation. Suddenly, the routine they had spent years building was interrupted. The kitchen that had once been filled with the smell of homemade curry likely became much quieter. The morning pickups stopped. Daily practices together stopped. And perhaps those matching homemade lunchboxes disappeared as well. We cannot say exactly what happened because neither of them has described every detail of that period. But it's difficult not to imagine how different those evenings must have felt. While Ryuichi devoted himself to recovery, Riku returned to the rink alone. She trained without the partner she had spent years skating beside. Practice finished, yet no massage appointment waited. No shared recovery schedule followed. If the lunches had truly become part of everyday life, what happened when there was suddenly no one to prepare them for? Did she continue making two by habit before catching herself? Did she prepare only one? Did she stop altogether? There are no public answers. And perhaps there never will be. Around that same period, Riku spoke words that carried enormous emotional weight. She said, "Without Ryuichi, there is no meaning in pair skating." When we first hear that quote, it sounds like an athlete describing her competitive partnership. And undoubtedly, that's exactly what she meant. Pair skating requires two people. Without a partner, the discipline itself cannot exist. But when those words are placed beside the story of their daily routines, another layer quietly appears. Pair skating wasn't only disappearing from competition. The everyday habits that surrounded it had disappeared too. The morning drives, the shared meals, the recovery appointments, the conversations after practice, the routines that had slowly become ordinary were suddenly gone. Losing competition is painful. Losing daily rituals can hurt in an entirely different way. That doesn't mean we should invent meanings that neither athlete has ever expressed. On the contrary, they have repeatedly asked people to respect their privacy. We should honor that. Still, it is perfectly reasonable to recognize that when routines built over several years suddenly vanish, their absence leaves an emotional space that anyone would notice. Eventually, Ryuichi returned. Rehabilitation succeeded. Step by step, he found his way back onto the ice. Looking back later, he explained that his injury completely changed how he viewed nutrition. Recovering from a serious back problem taught him just how essential proper meals had become. He even said that receiving nutritional guidance during rehabilitation helped speed his recovery. In other words, the injury deepened his appreciation for something he had already valued for years. More importantly, he wanted Riku to learn alongside him. That's why he intentionally let her hear conversations with the nutritionist through the speakerphone. He wasn't satisfied with improving only himself. He wanted the knowledge to benefit both of them. That mindset feels remarkably similar to the idea behind those matching lunchboxes. Instead of keeping something valuable for yourself, you share it with the person standing beside you. Little by little, the routine returned. Training resumed. Recovery resumed. Life gradually settled into a familiar rhythm once again. The first evening they ate together after his return has never been described publicly. We don't know whether they smiled, laughed, cried, or simply enjoyed the comfort of normal life returning. But anyone who has ever regained something they feared was gone forever understands the quiet gratitude that accompanies those moments. Sometimes you don't fully appreciate an ordinary routine until life suddenly takes it away. Only after its return do you realize how deeply it had become woven into everyday life. That lesson would follow them all the way toward the biggest competitions of their careers, Everything they had experienced up to that point seemed to prepare them for the seasons that followed. The injuries, the long rehabilitation, the quiet evenings of recovery, and the discipline they had built through years of ordinary routines all became part of a much larger story. By the time they arrived at the 2025 World Championships in Boston, they were no longer simply returning athletes. They were a team that had survived setbacks together. Winning another world title wasn't just about technical difficulty or flawless execution. It was proof that perseverance had become part of their identity. Looking back on that season, Riku later shared that they already knew it would be their final competitive year together. Because of that decision, every practice session suddenly carried greater meaning. Every competition felt more valuable. Every ordinary day became something they knew would never come again. They asked to skate to the program Gladiator because they wanted their final season to represent everything they had fought through together. Once that decision was made, every routine they had built over the previous years seemed to gain new emotional weight. The last practice, the last competition, perhaps even the last evening they opened matching lunchboxes after training. Every familiar moment quietly became a goodbye, even if they didn't fully realize it at the time. Then came February 2026. Milan Cortina. The Olympic Games. The stage every athlete dreams about for an entire lifetime. The short program did not unfold the way they had imagined. During one lift, Riku's costume became caught, disrupting the element and costing them valuable points. When the scores appeared, they found themselves sitting in 5th place. Gold suddenly looked almost impossible. Even standing on the podium seemed uncertain. The competition ended late that night. Most people would remember only the disappointment. But another story unfolded away from the cameras. Sports nutritionist Ayako Nishiyama later explained that despite the late hour, they still chose to eat. That detail might sound ordinary to most people, but to elite athletes it carried enormous significance. After emotional devastation, many people lose their appetite completely. Tears replace hunger. Yet Riku and Ryuichi still sat down for a meal because years of disciplined habits had taught their bodies that recovery could not stop simply because emotions were overwhelming. Later, Ryuichi admitted he cried continuously after the short program. The disappointment was overwhelming. His emotions refused to settle. Yet even through those tears, he still ate. That decision wasn't driven by appetite. It was driven by habit. 4 years in Canada, after exhausting practices and difficult recovery sessions, they had repeatedly chosen nourishment over exhaustion. Their bodies had learned that food was part of competing. That lesson didn't disappear simply because one performance had gone wrong. Nobody has documented exactly what they ate that night. Perhaps it came from the Olympic Village dining hall. Perhaps it was takeout. Perhaps it was something simple grabbed on the way back to the hotel. Whatever was on the table, one thing had changed. There were no homemade matching lunchboxes anymore. Canada was thousands of miles away. The kitchen where so many ordinary evenings had unfolded was far behind them. But something much more important remained unchanged. They were still eating together. The form had changed, but the habit had survived. That quiet decision became one more invisible thread connecting their Olympic night back to countless evenings in Canada. Then came another unforgettable moment. Riku took out a small resealable plastic bag and placed inside it a handwritten note. On it she wrote a simple message. "We can do this. We've already done the work." She handed it to Ryuichi while he was still overwhelmed with emotion. He read those words and cried again. But this time, they were different tears. They were no longer tears of defeat. They became tears of belief. Sometimes encouragement doesn't arrive through long speeches. Sometimes a few handwritten words become enough to steady someone standing at the edge of despair. The following day, they stepped back onto Olympic ice for the free skate. What happened next became part of figure skating history. They delivered the performance of their lives, earning one of the highest scores ever recorded and completing an extraordinary comeback that secured Olympic gold. Millions around the world watched the flawless program, the celebration, the tears, and the medal ceremony. But very few people saw the invisible line connecting that historic performance to all the quiet evenings that came before it. The meal they forced themselves to eat after the disappointing short program. The handwritten message slipped into Ryuichi's hands. The years of discipline that taught them not to abandon healthy routines when emotions became overwhelming. Follow that line backward far enough and it leads once again to Canada, to massage appointments after practice, and to 2 matching homemade lunchboxes quietly opened side by side. Championships are often remembered through spectacular moments that last only a few minutes. Yet those few minutes are supported by thousands of ordinary moments that almost nobody notices. Perhaps that is the true meaning hidden inside those lunchboxes. They represented consistency. They represented choosing each other every single day, long before anyone applauded them. During the medal ceremony and the emotional celebrations that followed, cameras captured every smile, every tear, and every embrace. Viewers around the world saw Olympic champions standing beneath bright lights. What they could not see were the years of unseen evenings quietly standing behind that achievement. Somewhere inside those celebrations lived memories of waiting rooms, recovery sessions, shared meals, homemade lunches, and countless ordinary days that had slowly built extraordinary trust. The weight of an Olympic gold medal cannot be measured only by what happened on the ice. It also carries the invisible weight of every sacrifice made away from competition. After winning gold, they appeared together before reporters. Ryuichi struggled to hold back his emotions almost immediately. As flowers were presented, tears filled his eyes once again. Sitting beside him, Riku gently whispered, "Please don't cry." He took a deep breath, gathered himself, and finally spoke the words that moved so many people. "Thank you for these 7 years." Most listeners naturally connected that statement to competitions and achievements. But perhaps those 7 years also contained hundreds of ordinary evenings that never appeared in highlight reels. Evenings when his body ached after practice. Evenings when she waited while he finished treatment. Evenings when matching lunchboxes rested quietly beside each other before they drove home. Evenings when nobody imagined those simple routines were helping create Olympic champions. After retirement, Ryuichi shared a photograph on social media showing nothing more than an open road stretching into the distance. The caption simply read, "Freedom." Shortly afterward, Riku returned to her hometown and admitted in an interview that for a while she wanted to do nothing except sleep. After spending nearly every day together for 7 years, silence must have felt unfamiliar. Again, we cannot know what happened inside those private moments, and it would be wrong to pretend otherwise. But anyone who has lived through the end of a long partnership understands that everyday habits often leave the deepest emptiness. The competitions eventually end. The medals are displayed. The applause fades away. What lingers are the routines that quietly disappeared. Whether she prepared another lunch after retirement or whether the kitchen suddenly felt different is something only she knows. They have always asked people to respect what remains private, and that request deserves to be honored. What we can say with confidence is far simpler. Their story reminds us that greatness is rarely built only during the moments everyone watches. More often, it grows quietly through ordinary choices repeated over and over again. A morning ride before sunrise. A homemade meal prepared with care. Waiting for someone after treatment. Choosing to eat even after heartbreaking disappointment. These moments may never appear in official statistics, but together they form the invisible foundation beneath every championship. Perhaps that is why their journey continues to resonate with so many people around the world. It isn't only a story about winning medals. It's a story about showing up for another person every single day, long before history remembers your name.